Like everyone in 2019, waking up the morning after, of course, that particular general election, we were all very, very much shocked to see that the Conservatives had made gains in what had become known very quickly as the Red Wall. And these were areas where they were traditional, very, very strong Labour voting areas. Indeed, some of those areas had never changed hands since, well, Labour got a hold of them to begin with. Some of them hadn't changed hands for decades, even longer than that. So, like many people, including myself, we were like, what happened here? Look, that when you talk to sort of people in my area, they will be very, very frank with you and said, I would never, ever vote for Margaret Thatcher's party. They, better red than dead. you know, um, the there are all these numerous numbers and all these anecdotes you can talk to. Miners. I was an ex-miner. I'd never vote for these people, but they did. Some of it was because of Brexit, but not all of it. There was a lot of anger, a lot of very unsurety about, Jeremy Corbyn versus Boris Johnson, and a lot of the people in the Red Wall very much made their decision, although a lot of people on the left really can't come to terms with it, that these people voted for Boris Johnson because they thought that he would be a better prime minister over Jeremy Corbyn. That was one of the big things we saw in 2019. But of course, we were always asking, well, what happened here? What really happened in the Red Wall? Have the Tories actually managed to get into this new section of voters? And what does this really mean for the future of their party? But of course, as we've laid out really since then, the lies that Johnson has told, the promises that he has made to these voters, some of which, again, even very much on since we're in 2022, and most of those promises still have not come to fruition. The levelling up agenda has completely fallen flat. We've got a cost of living crisis where currently the Tories are still doing nothing to try and help alleviate the problem that this is causing in the country. We have rocketing energy bills, food bills, you name it. We've got a housing crisis, which they have been very much in charge with and refuse to do anything about it. We've got an NHS that is being pushed to the brink, not really doing anything about it. So over and over again, the Conservatives have shown they are just in no fit state to govern. And I think you're going to see that played out at the next general election. But this study that has recently come out has some very interesting information, because it says you're actually really focusing on the wrong group of people, which, again, makes for very, very interesting reading going into a potential next general election coming up. So let's read into this study and find out, well, what it had to say, because I think it makes for very, very interesting reading. So before we do go to that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one after link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. And of course, there is the YouTube subscription button down below as well as the new YouTube thank you button. So let's go on to this. So this comes from The Independent with the title of "The Red Wall Preoccupation Hides the Reality of Left Behind Voters, Says Study." Politicians need to end their preoccupation with the Red Wall and focus on younger non-graduates across the country, new research has argued. The Conservatives' victory in a swathe of northern seats previously held by Labour in 2019 has led to intense focus on the so-called Red Wall and the belief that the poorer left-behind voters have switched from supporting Labour to the Tories. But research published on Thursday by the political scientist Professor Jane Green and Dr. Rose de Gies argued that this belief is misguided, and it is still economically secure voters who are the basis of the Conservative support, even in the Red Wall. Professor Green and the fellow at Nuffield College, Oxford, said, "The problem has become where the red wall has now become a shortcut for saying the Conservatives have gained among low-income voters and those who are more working class. If you look at economic insecurity, the Conservatives are still way ahead among the economically secure voters, and Labour are just ahead with the economically insecure. The assumption now is that the Conservatives are supported by poorer voters, and our research shows that they are actually supported by richer voters." So that's been where this report certainly says it's been coming from. It's actually the more affluent voters, the more people who are economically secure, who in 2019 normally would have voted for Labour, but they're the ones who switched their votes over, which seems to me, at least what this report is saying, is what has happened in 2019, which makes for very, very interesting reading. The report published by Nuffield Political Research Centre added this: "This suggests that the Conservative coalition is owed to economic security as well as to Brexit, and a loss of that security could be very electorally damaging." Well, what's going on now? Cost of living crisis, energy crisis. They are losing that economic security, and that will be very economically damaging. Just look what happened at the yesterday where we went over that the Wakefield by-election focus group. The one story, as it said from there, was rising food and energy bills. That was their number one story, and the absolute anger they had at Boris Johnson for not doing what he promised and not delivering on his promises. The pair argued that it was younger non-graduates and men under aged 40 and women aged 50 and under who were most likely to be economically insecure and could be a key electoral demographic. But they were spread across the country rather than concentrated in the red wall. Professor Green said, "I think they could be mobilized in either direction, either to Labour on the basis of their economic insecurity or the Conservatives on other issues. Those other issues include Brexit and cultural factors, although younger non-graduates are less likely to be Leave supporting or socially conservative than their older counterparts." But she emphasized that the political parties could not be afford to ignore any of the four groups identified in the study: the younger non-graduates, younger graduates, older non-graduates, and older non-graduates. So, yeah, that's all two older non-graduates twice. While younger non-graduates are conflicted, but she said, the same could be said for older graduates who are more likely to vote and could be swayed towards the Conservatives by their relative economic security. Conversely, she said, the cost of living crisis could see support for the Conservatives fall amongst pensioners if they end up facing the greater insecurity. Again, pensioners do make a large block of votes for the Conservatives. Cost of living crisis, energy crisis is hitting them hard. I think it's with these energy increases, it's something like that's like 30% of the state pension gone. Just on those, if you look at energy crisis and the increase in bills, that's 30% of a pensioner's state pension gone. And remember, we have the lowest state pension in Europe. So that is going to hurt a lot of pensioners, certainly, and going to put off a lot of them voting Conservatives, certainly at the next general election. Anyway, it continues. So the report said, the future electoral coalitions of the parties lie both in economics and in cultural issues, and they transcend types of place and levels of education. Economically insecure and secure voters live in various parts of the country and across types of constituency. Conservative voters are more insulated on average from the current economic crisis because they have more economically secure in the first place. They have buffers to weather economic storms. The voters who will be least able to sustain further economic hardship at the current time are the younger, though not all young, non-graduates, and a group of voters both major parties need to attract. They added that the culture wars provided no guarantee of winning support among either of the economically secure or insecure. So that, I think that makes for really interesting reading. That report, very, very interesting. Absolutely very interesting reading. And again, what have we got at the moment? Heading for lots of economic insecurity. It is only going to be made that much more worse as this rolls on. And as we've said at the moment, Conservatives aren't really doing anything. You know, Rishi Sunak's big play a couple of weeks ago was to lower the price of fuel by like 5 pence. So it was, cheap, just as cheap as it was 2 weeks ago. But again, because of inflation, rising costs, that 5 pence is now nothing. It's gotten even more expensive. So this is going to hurt a lot of voters very, very hard. And it was those voters that the Conservatives managed to attract in 2019. So the more and more economic damage these voters suffer, the more they are likely to switch their votes over to Labour. So definitely very interesting. And of course, well, we know this cost of living crisis. We know it's going to last well into 2023. And we know it's only going to get worse, especially energy bills. That is going to get even more ridiculous. I mean, they're already up higher than now, like 200% increase. And as we've said before, look at France. They capped their energy prices at 4%. What's to stop the government from doing that? We've said it all the time. The government could be doing stuff, but they are choosing politically not to. And that is the important distinction. They are choosing not to do anything. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.